I'm now joined by my colleague Junei Karisa. Good morning, Junei. Kindly bring us up to speed with what the coast has to offer when it comes to the judgment.
Good morning, Ben Train. Mombasa, where today I'll be speaking to Professor Mwakimaku and of course Beatrice Gambo. She is a former director of the Coast Development Authority and also the coordinator of Jubilee, just to give us some insight of the feel of BBI. Just to bring you up to speed is that as you are aware, during the public participation, most of the county assembly passed the BBI process that particular level, meaning many of them were for this particular process. Other than the expansion of the executive as well as the additional constituencies that are going to be added, if the BBI was to pass, this particular region feels that the political and economic development that was going to be achieved when this particular process was going to be passed was going to be massive. And of course they felt that the resources that was going to trickle down after this process had passed was going to be massive for this particular region. Let me bring in Professor Mwakimaku just to break it down on the feel of this particular region. Were they expecting the judgment, and after the judgment, how have they received some of this, the ruling that was passed just a few days ago? Karibu sana, bring us to speed. What is the feel on the ground on this particular ruling that was delivered?
Thank you very much. I think from the beginning, the BBI process, there was mixed reactions. There were people who are in favor, and there are others who are not in favor. So obviously, even with the judgment, it is the same. Those who are in favor feel that they're happy. Those who are not in favor felt that they're not very happy with the judgment. But the bottom line is that the BBI process, for those who are in favor of it, they felt that it was going to bring in a lot of development because it was one way in which devolution would have been strengthened. More resources would have been sent to the grassroots, and people would have the opportunity to see more development projects. So basically for those kinds of people, they feel that somehow development will be undermined. Devolution would still also be undermined. But there are those who are against, and these were particularly felt that the process which was undertaken was not legal. And they feel that the courts have tried to correct something. But all in all, I think we need to take the positives out of this judgment and learn from the negatives out of this judgment. If we want to strengthen devolution, we need to find better ways to do that, because along the coast, I think if devolution is strengthened, many people would benefit. For the areas that people felt that it was unnecessary, for example, the expansion of the executive, we need to find a way in which we could resolve the challenge that we have. Because ideally, what was being addressed was the perennial fighting after every election, because some leaders felt that they were left out and they need to find room. So we need to find ways in which we could address this challenge, because as we move towards the next election, let's not find ourselves in a situation where people lose and they feel left out and they continuously agitate, they continuously deny, refuse to recognize the leaders that have been elected. So we still have challenges, and we need to find a way in which we can address those challenges irrespective of the outcome of the court decision. Yeah.
Just to engage Beatrice, are you in support of what Professor is saying? Would the BBI process expand this particular region? And I understand that the process to achieve the constitutional amendment was the one that was unconstitutional. If today someone else was to come up from the Mwananchi and bring up this particular process, do you feel that the region still would have been for the BBI amendment process?
Thank you very much, June. I would like to just go back to history. In 1963, 1964, there was a very, very strong conversation that was happening in the country. And at the coast, the person who was leading this particular process was the late Ronald Ngala. And Ronald Ngala was, he was voicing up the need to have Majimboism, to have the Majimbo government, because he felt that coast, the cry that coast has been marginalized will be addressed through that particular governance process. So fast forward 2010, when we were campaigning for this constitution, the narrative, okay, or the message that we are sending to our people at the coast is that now we have an opportunity to have that which the late Ronald Ngala was crying about, Majimbo ya Ngala, if I may say that in Kiswahili. And people understood, they resonated with it. In fact, if you look at the statistics, there was a 72.2% voter turnout in the country. 69.9% voted, 69.9% voted yes for the constitution, 30% voted no, and of course there were some who were undecided. Now, what that tells you is that the cost, in fact, that the constitution that we are enjoying right now was voted yes overwhelmingly by the people at the coast. Why? Because they understood that as we devolve government, then we'll have an opportunity to bring the resources closer to the people. Now, on 20th August 2021, everybody was glued to the TV, and after the judgment, the social media platforms went ablaze, people celebrating, and I was going through some of these platforms and I was taken aback. I was like, do people really understand what this means to the coastal people? Now, briefly, in the amendment, okay, that was being brought forward through the BBI, an amendment. We were not overhauling the entire constitution. We were amending certain parts, because when you implement a constitution for 10 years, you have an opportunity. You have actually understood the gaps. Okay, you've seen the gaps, and you have a solution to bridge those gaps, so that it can even be a better document for the people. And I tell people, unlike the Bible, the Quran, you cannot amend. But the Constitution, it is a document made by the human mind, meaning that they always has to be room for improvement. There will always be room for change. So this is the opportunity that the BBI was presenting to the Kenyan people, especially now that I'm talking about the coastal people. Now, through the Constitution amendment, okay, the BBI, we were going to increase the allocation of revenue from the national government. Exactly what Ronald Ngala was talking about. Exactly what the late Karisa Maitha was talking about. So that from 15%, now we're going to enjoy 35%. Today, if you go to our counties in costs, it's not perfect, the development that has come, but it is worth to comment that now people are enjoying certain benefits that they did not when we were not operating a devolved function. So 35% would have meant more hospitals. It will have meant better infrastructure. It will have meant more children getting, to go to school, better schools. It will have meant more, job creation. There was so much that we were going to enjoy as the coast. In fact, the narrative that coast has been marginalized has faded off. Okay, it has continually faded off in these 10 years that we have been in the devolved, governance. Okay, so for me, I actually felt, taken aback, because I was like, wow, we had this opportunity for us to get more. Okay, as the coastal community. So I believe we still, have you seen, there's still, the Council of Governors did a press conference yesterday, and they said we will try and get this allocation, okay, that we were talking about in the BBI through Parliament, okay, to see how they can be able to adopt this, and the bill goes through, and then it is signed into law. So those processes, for me, I actually commend them, okay, because it is good for the coastal people. It is very good for our people.
Okay. On that particular note, now that the court ruled this particular process unconstitutional, the parliament has decided that it will take just some of the particular vipengele tu fulani so that they can be able to table it and see if they can pass it before the general election. And that is what also the Council of Governors is doing during this period before the general election. Do you think it will work?
It should work because Parliament has that responsibility to bring about changes in society and to provide direction where how things need to be done. But my perspective is that the years that we have been engaging in this BBI, this was a lost opportunity. A lost opportunity in the sense that if you want to do something that is good for the nation, you also need to recognize that it has to be done within the confines of the Constitution. So we have wasted almost 2-3 years of haggling about BBI, and then all of a sudden it has become unconstitutional because of the intransigence of the people who are behind this process. Because these issues were raised before that, look, let us look at what the Constitution says and let us do these changes in regard to the Constitution. And people just didn't want to listen. Now, this is a lost opportunity. We have wasted a lot of time. And now Parliament all of a sudden realizes that, oh, maybe we could have done it this way. And you know what the problem is? Is that our politics is done according to the wishes of a few individuals. And the courts have told us and told everybody that that is not the right way to go about doing changes in Kenya. Kenyans yearn for change. Kenyans want to ensure that there is development. Kenyans want to ensure that devolution is properly done. But it has to be done according to the Constitution of Kenya.
Briefly, just before we wind up, your last and final take. Will this work? Will this process work as it goes to Parliament and, of course, the Council of Governors' efforts so that they can bring some of this vipengele back to the people?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to work. It's going to work because the Constitution, the 2010, the Constitution that we enjoy right now, is very clear on what can be done in Parliament and what cannot be done in Parliament. And I know in Parliament we have members of Parliament, they are very alive to this fact. So they are going to look into what they can amend so that it sails through. And trust me, no member of Parliament is going to fight, okay, a bill that is placed before the House telling us that we are going to increase revenue allocation. And this is something that is going to be pushed by the governors. So yes, this is going to work. And when it comes to mashinani, we are going to push and we are going to support. We are going to lobby our members of Parliament so that this goes into law. Thank you.
All right, Ben Njue, those were very, very insightful remarks from Professor Hassan Mwakimaku and, of course, Beatrice Gamba on the perspective on the BBI. They say it is a lost chance, a lost opportunity for this particular region to develop politically and economically. They are hopeful that, of course, the some of the strides that the parliamentarians are doing and, of course, the Council of Governors are doing could help them achieve what this particular region was yearning for. So, of course, we are continuing in this particular discussion, but I'm handing it back to you, Ben Njue, so that you can continue with the discussion in studio.